There was a time when the world believed that wealth was only for the chosen few, that abundance was a limited resource to be fought over and hoarded. But what if everything you've been told about prosperity was fundamentally flawed? What if the ancient wisdom that Jesus himself proclaimed, "I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly," was not just spiritual metaphor, but a practical principle of existence? The universe is not a place of scarcity, but one of infinite abundance, waiting for those who understand its divine laws to claim their birthright. Your life right now, every circumstance, every possession, every relationship, is the physical manifestation of your predominant thoughts crystallized into reality. As it is written in Proverbs, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." This is not religious sentiment, but universal law, as certain as gravity. The thoughts you've been thinking have created the life you now live. If you want something different tomorrow, you must begin thinking differently today. Edison didn't just invent the light bulb. He first had to envision a world illuminated beyond the limitations of candles and gas lamps. Carnegie didn't simply acquire steel mills. He first saw himself as a man of industrial power when others saw only a poor immigrant. Before Disney built kingdoms of imagination, he first had to believe in magic when the world told him to be practical. Their fortunes weren't accidents of fate. They were deliberate creations born first in the fertile soil of thought. The wealthy think differently. The prosperous speak differently. The abundant live differently. And it all begins with a fundamental shift in consciousness that most people will never make, moving from seeing wealth as something external to be chased to understanding it as something internal expressed. As Jesus taught in the parable of the talents, "For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have abundance." The universe rewards those who properly steward what they already possess in mind, body. Your current financial situation, precise mathematical result of your beliefs about money, your relations with giving. The Bible reminds us, remember the Lord who gives you the ability. This acknowledgement of isn't about it's about tapping into the unlimited supply that has always been. Look at your bank account balance. That number isn't just digits on a screen. It's a reflection of your consciousness. If that number dissatisfies you, the change required isn't merely external strategy, but internal transformation. Lincoln wasn't born into privilege, but he cultivated a mind that refused limitation. Ford didn't succeed because circumstances favored him. He succeeded because when others saw automobiles as toys for the wealthy, he envisioned them in every American driveway. Their abundance began as thought before it materialized as reality. Most people live their entire lives in reaction to circumstance, believing themselves victims of economics, politics, bad luck, or the actions of others. They wake each morning already surrendering their creative power, focusing on what's wrong, what's lacking, what's threatening their security. But the master creators of wealth and fulfillment, from Solomon to Rockefeller, from Mother Teresa to Oprah Winfrey, understood a profound truth. Circumstances don't determine your destiny. They merely reveal your current. When Jesus proclaimed, "It is done unto you as you believe," he wasn't sharing religious dogma, but cosmic law. The universe doesn't hear your wishes or your wants. It responds to your deepest conviction, the thoughts you think when no one is watching, the beliefs so fundamental you no longer question. Your life experience isn't happening, it's happening from you. Every thought is a cause set in motion, every circumstance. Most will hear these words and nod in intellectual agreement while continuing to think, speak, and live from the same consciousness that created their current limitations. They'll continue speaking of what they don't have, focusing on obstacles rather than opportunities, repeating the very patterns that have kept abundance at arm's length. As Solomon warned in Proverbs, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Your words aren't just descriptions of reality, they're prescriptions of future. The language of lack creates more lack. The language of fear manifests more to fear. The language of limitation ensures you remain limited. Listen to your own speech patterns. Do you speak of what you can't afford? Do you focus conversation on how difficult the economy is? Do you complain about the success of others while secretly believing such success isn't possible for you? Jesus taught, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth. Your words reveal the hidden state of your consciousness. True wealth begins with wealthy thinking. Wealthy thinking isn't about constant positivity or denial of challenges. It's about seeing beyond current appearances to the unlimited potential that exists in every situation. When Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground, destroying years of work and irreplaceable records, he famously said, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew. That is the consciousness of abundance, seeing opportunity where others see only devastation. The path to prosperity requires a complete renovation of thought. You must systematically identify and eliminate every belief that says wealth is wrong, money is scarce, success requires struggle, or abundance comes at the expense of others. God's universe operates on principles of unlimited supply, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, as Jesus described it. Nature doesn't show signs of lack, only humans with their limits. Consider how a single apple seed contains not just one apple, but an entire orchard across generations. That is the divine model of abundance. The Creator designed multiplication as the universal default, not division, subtraction. When Jesus fed the multitudes with 5 loaves and 2 fish, he demonstrated that scarcity exists only in human perception, not in divine reality. The universe is fundamentally generous. It's our consciousness that accepts or rejects this generosity. Henry Ford revolutionized industry not just through technical innovation, but through a consciousness that refused to accept limitation. When engineers told him a V8 engine cast in a single block was impossible, he didn't argue with their experts. He simply said, "Produce it anyway." His unwavering belief eventually manifested what technical knowledge alone deemed impossible. Your convictions must similarly transcend apparent limitation. Your prosperity isn't determined by your education, your background, your connections, or even your current skills. These are all changeable, improvable factors. The determining factor is your consciousness, your fundamental beliefs about who you are and what's possible for you. Carnegie wasn't born into steel and banking. He was born into poverty in Scotland. His greatest asset wasn't capital, but consciousness, the absolute certainty for abundance. Most people approach wealth with a consciousness of effort and struggle. They believe financial security must be hard-won through sacrifice, discipline, and delayed gratification. And indeed, their experience confirms this belief because the universe delivers experiences that match our deep conviction. But study those who achieve extraordinary prosperity with seeming ease. They operate from a different premise entirely, that abundance is their natural state, that wealth flows to them as naturally as water flows down. The Bible teaches, "Give, and it will be given to you." This principle reveals the circulation of abundance. Those who clutch tightly to what they have, fearing loss, restrict the very flow that would bring them more. Those who give generously, confidently, joyfully, not from obligation but from an overflow mentality, activate the divine law of increase. Look at every legendary fortune builder, from Andrew Carnegie to Bill Gates. Their philanthropy wasn't separate from their wealth building, but integral to it. Your ability to receive is directly proportional to your willingness to give. This isn't moralistic preaching, it's practical spirituality. The universe abhors a vacuum. When you give from a consciousness of abundance rather than sacrifice, you create space for greater supply to flow into your experience. As Catherine Ponder wrote, echoing biblical wisdom, the golden key to prosperity is the idea of giving. The reason for this is that giving is the first step in circulating your... Every financial circumstance you currently face traces back to thought patterns you've been nurturing, consciously or unconsciously. If debt burdens you, examine your beliefs about borrowing, about your ability to generate income, about your relationship with money itself. If investments fail, look beyond strategy to your underlying expectations of loss or gain. If income plateaus, question whether you've placed invisible ceilings on your earning potential through thoughts of unworthiness or fear of visibility. Andrew Carnegie, once the world's richest man, said, "The average person puts only 25% of his energy and ability into his work. The world takes off its hat to those who put in more than 50% of their capacity and stands on its head for those who give 100%. But this isn't about grinding effort. It's about aligned energy. When your thoughts, words, and actions harmonize with prosperity consciousness, you access flow states where abundance comes not through force but through allowing. Jesus challenged the poverty consciousness of his time, teaching that the kingdom of heaven is within you. This wasn't mere poetic language, but precise instruction. The realm of infinite supply exists within your consciousness. It manifests outwardly only to the degree you access it inwardly. When you pray, as Jesus taught, believe that you have received, creating the feeling of possession before physical evidence appears. This is the essence of faith, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Consider how differently someone with a wealth consciousness moves through the world compared to someone trapped in scarcity thinking. The wealth-conscious individual sees opportunity everywhere, in economic downturns, in technological disruption, in changing consumer preferences. They invest during recessions when others retreat in fear. They welcome competition as validation of market demand rather than threat to their share. They view failure as education rather than judgment. This isn't personality, it's practice. Let me ask you directly, what would change if you absolutely knew that abundance was your birthright? If you were completely convinced that the universe was conspiring for your prosperity rather than against it, if you understood with unshakable certainty that the same intelligence that grows forests from tiny seeds was working through your inspired ideas. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper lacking imagination, yet he held a vision that transformed entertainment forever. The difference wasn't circumstance but consciousness. Your words create your world. The Bible teaches that God created through speaking, "Let there be light." You create your reality through the same mechanism. Listen to the language patterns of the wealthy versus the struggling. Those in poverty say, "I can't afford it." The prosperous ask, "How can I afford it?" The difference isn't semantic, it's creative. One statement closes possibility, the other opens pathways in consciousness that lead to full action. The biblical Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream, foreseeing 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. While others would later face starvation, Joseph's foresight created abundance, sustained nations. This ancient wisdom applies today. Consciousness precedes manifestation. Those who cultivate prosperity thinking before evidence appears position themselves to thrive, regardless of external conditions. They don't react to circumstances, they create them. Your bank account doesn't determine your wealth consciousness. Your wealth consciousness determines your bank account. This isn't positive thinking, it's causal thinking. Every dollar in your possession first existed as thought energy before materializing as currency. This isn't metaphysical speculation, but practical causation. Edison didn't stumble upon the light bulb. He held its possibility in consciousness through 10,000 failures until physical reality conformed to his inner vision. Most people wait to feel abundant until they have abundance, not realizing this reverses the creative sequence. As Jesus taught, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." The feeling of having precedes the manifestation of having. This isn't wishful thinking, but application of universal law. The electromagnetic energy of thought and feeling attracts corresponding circumstances with mathematical. Your prosperity isn't separate from your overall consciousness. Physical health, emotional well-being, relationship fulfillment, and financial abundance flow from the same source, your dominant thoughts and beliefs. John D. Rockefeller, despite amassing unprecedented wealth, nearly died from stress-related illness before discovering that giving and gratitude were essential components through prosperity. His philanthropy wasn't charity. It was intelligent self-interest, aligning his entire being with the laws of The scriptures teach, "The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure." This treasure isn't distant or withheld, it's your consciousness, opened or closed by your own thinking. Catherine Ponder understood this. She wrote that prosperity isn't something you work for, it's something you tune into. Like a radio receiving broadcast signal, your consciousness receives and materializes the frequency it's tuned to. If financial struggle persists, it isn't because abundance is unavailable, but because you're tuned to a different station. Consider how Abraham Lincoln rose from frontier poverty to lead a nation. His circumstances offered every excuse for limitation, yet his consciousness transcended his surroundings. "The best way to predict your future is to create it," he said. This wasn't motivational rhetoric, but practical instruction. Creating begins with seeing beyond current conditions to the invisible reality of possibility. The wealthy see this invisible dimension and bring it into visibility through focused thought, aligned speech, and inspired action. The struggling masses believe money comes exclusively through labor, inheritance, or luck. The truly prosperous understand money flows to valuable ideas, solved problems, and fulfilled needs. Edison didn't patent the light bulb. He patented a system that made electric light practical and accessible. His wealth came not from invention alone, but from understanding market needs and creating solutions at scale. This requires seeing opportunities others miss, a function of consciousness, not circumstance. When Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he wasn't making an exclusive religious claim, but revealing the pattern of creation. Identity, I am, precedes experience. Your self-concept, who you believe yourself to be, determines what you'll allow yourself to have, do, and become. If deep down you don't see yourself as the kind of person who generates wealth, no strategy or opportunity will override that core belief. Identity renovation must precede financial transformation. Listen carefully. The universe doesn't deliver what you want or what you need. It delivers who you are. Every dollar in your life reflects your self-concept made visible. Napoleon Hill interviewed the wealthiest people of his era and discovered this common thread. They decided who they were before they had evidence to support that decision. This isn't arrogance, it's the proper use of creative imagination, seeing the invisible before it becomes visible. Most financial advice focuses on strategies, tactics, and techniques, the outer game of wealth. But the masters of prosperity understand that the inner game determines the outer results. A mind filled with doubt, unworthiness, and fear of lack cannot execute even the most brilliant financial strategy effectively. Conversely, a mind absolutely convinced of its right to abundance will find ways to manifest prosperity even when conventional paths are blocked. Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." This isn't motivational cliche, but causal reality. Your thoughts determine your perceptions. Your perceptions influence your decisions drive your actions, and your actions create your results. At each stage, consciousness shapes experience. Change your thinking about money from burden to blessing, from scarcity to abundance, from complexity to simplicity, and watch how financial reality reshapes itself accordingly. The Bible speaks of renewing your mind as essential transformation. This renewal isn't intellectual understanding, but complete paradigm shift, seeing money through new eyes, recognizing it not as limited resource to be hoarded, but as flowing energy to be circulated. When you shift from seeing money as scarce commodity to seeing it as abundant medium of exchange, you move from fighting economic currents to flowing with universe. Jesus taught, "Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." This isn't religious abstraction, but practical priority setting. The kingdom is consciousness of abundance. Righteous is right relationship with universal law. When your primary focus becomes cultivating prosperity consciousness rather than chasing dollars, the dollars paradoxically begin flowing toward you through unexpected channels, ingenious ideas, and synchronistic opportunities. Most people use affirmations incorrectly, as attempts to convince themselves of what they don't actually believe. True affirmation isn't self-deception, but declaration of deeper truth beyond temporary appearance. When Jesus spoke to storms, "Peace, be still," He wasn't denying the storm's existence, but commanding alignment with higher reality. Your declarations of abundance aren't denial of current conditions, but recognition of the spiritual truth that transcends the conditions. Your relationship with money reveals your relationship with yourself. Those who constantly overspend often suffer from inner emptiness they're trying to fill. Those who hoard wealth frequently carry deep insecurity no amount of money resolves. Those who consistently undercharge typically struggle with self-worth. Financial patterns aren't random. They're symbolic outpicturing of consciousness. As Jesus taught, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The masses believe they must find their path to prosperity. The wealthy understand they must create it. When Walt Disney was rejected by 300 banks before securing financing for Disneyland, he wasn't discovering a pre-existing path. He was forging one through persistence rooted in unshakable vision. Your prosperity path isn't waiting to be found. It's waiting to be created through the transformative power of conviction translated in action. Solomon, history's wealthiest king, wrote, "As he thinks in his heart, so is he." Notice the present tense, not as he will think or hopes to think, but as he thinks now. Your current financial reality precisely reflects your habitual thought patterns about money, success, and self-worth. If that reality doesn't satisfy you, the point of intervention isn't external circumstance, but internal consciousness. Change your thoughts about wealth, and you change wealth itself. The world's wealthiest individuals understand that money flows to solutions, not problems, to value creation, not need. Thomas Edison didn't become wealthy by needing money. He generated fortune by solving the problem of practical electric light. Carnegie didn't amass wealth by focusing on lack. He created abundance by revolutionizing steel production. Their external achievements began as internal solutions, answers they discovered in consciousness before implementing in reality. Jesus taught that those who are faithful with little will be entrusted with much. This isn't moralistic reward, but recognition of consciousness demonstrated. How you relate to the money currently in your life, whether $10 or $10 million, reveals your readiness for more. Those who appreciate, steward, and circulate their current supply from a consciousness of abundance rather than fear demonstrate their capacity for greater wealth. The universe responds not to desire but to demonstration. Your thoughts about money have been programmed since childhood. through parents' comments, cultural messages, religious teachings, and personal experiences. Most of this programming occurred below conscious awareness, yet it determines your financial ceiling more definitively than economic conditions. Unless consciously examined and transformed, these hidden beliefs will override even the most determined efforts to change your financial reality. What you appreciate appreciates. When you fault find with your current financial situation, you energetically push away the very prosperity you seek. Gratitude isn't passive acceptance of limitation, but active recognition of supply already present, which magnetically attracts more of the same. As the psalmist wrote, "Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise." This isn't religious ritual, but spiritual principle. Gratitude is the portal through which greater good and the masses see money as something to be earned through labor. The wealthy see money as energy that flows to valuable ideas. Einstein didn't become wealthy by working harder than others, but by thinking thoughts no one else had. His distinctive consciousness created distinctive results. Your unique mental patterns, when aligned with principles of abundance rather than scarcity, become your unique pathway to prosperity unlike anyone else's. Consider how differently someone with wealth consciousness approaches investment compared to someone with poverty consciousness. When stock markets decline, the poverty-minded see disaster and sell at losses. The wealth-conscious see discount opportunity and acquire assets others abandon. The external event is identical. The interpretation and response emerge from entirely different consciousness. One consciousness perpetuates lack. The other generates increase regardless of conditions. Jesus taught, "According to your faith, be it unto you." Faith isn't religious sentiment, but activated consciousness, absolute knowing beyond surface. When Andrew Carnegie proceeded with certainty, while others hesitated with doubt, he wasn't displaying mere personality difference, but fundamentally different relationship with universal supply. His unshakable knowing became his distinctive advantage in creating unprecedented wealth. Listen carefully. Money isn't primarily attracted to hard work, specialized knowledge, or market timing. These factors matter, but they're secondary to consciousness alignment. Money flows most abundantly to those whose thoughts, feelings, words, and actions consistently align with prosperity rather than poverty, with abundance rather than scarcity, with solution rather than problem. This alignment isn't occasional inspiration, but moment by moment. Most people think change happens incrementally over time. The masters of manifestation understand that transformation happens in an instant, the moment consciousness shifts from limitation to possibility. When Walt Disney declared, "If you can dream it, you can do it," he wasn't offering inspirational platitude, but articulating causal relationship. The dream, held with unwavering conviction, inevitably manifests in physical form when consciousness fully aligns with its reality. Your thoughts are causes, your circumstances are effects. Most attempt to change effects while leaving causes intact, then wonder why changes don't last. Lasting financial transformation requires addressing root consciousness, not just surface behavior. As Jesus taught in the parable of houses built on sand versus rock, only transformation founded on truth, the rock of prosperity consciousness, withstands the storms of economic fluctuation. The Bible teaches that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This isn't religious abstraction, but precise description of manifestation process. The invisible substance of thought, charged with absolute conviction, becomes the visible substance experience. Edison's light bulb existed in conscious substance before physical substance. Disney's theme parks existed in mental evidence before material evidence. Your prosperity follows the same divine pattern. Most people believe circumstances determine their state of mind. The wealthy understand that state of mind determines circumstance. When Henry Ford said, "Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right," he wasn't offering philosophical perspective, but describing causal mechanisms. Your beliefs aren't passive opinions about reality. They're active forces creating reality. This isn't metaphysical theory, but practical application of consciousness cause. Your relationship with money mirrors your relationship with life itself. If you see life as struggle, money becomes difficult. If you see life as adventure, money becomes exciting possibility. If you see life as classroom, money becomes teacher. The biblical principle that, with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again, applies precisely to prosperity. The consciousness you bring to money determines what money brings to you. The masses chase money. The wealthy attract it. This distinction isn't semantic, but fundamental. Chasing energy repels. Attractive energy magnetizes. When you shift from pursuing prosperity to embodying the consciousness that naturally attracts it: gratitude, generosity, creativity, service. You reverse the energetic flow. Instead of exhausting yourself seeking opportunity, you become the kind of person to whom opportunities naturally gravitate. Consider how differently Jesus approached material supply compared to conventional thinking. When feeding multitudes from apparent scarcity, he didn't strategize resource allocation. He gave thanks for what was already present, demonstrating the conscience that produced increase. When facing tax obligation without visible means, he directed focus to unexpected supply, a coin in his mouth, showing that rigid thinking about income sources limits manifestation potential. Your ability to receive prosperity directly correlates with your sense of deservingness. You will never exceed your internal thermostat setting for what you believe you're worth. Andrew Carnegie didn't amass unprecedented wealth by accident through unshakable conviction that he deserved the fullness of his vision. This wasn't egotism, but proper self-valuation. As Jesus taught, loving others as yourself requires first establishing healthy self-value. Most people approach goal setting from consciousness of current limitations. The masters of manifestation approach it from consciousness of infinite possibility. When Thomas Edison declared he would create commercially viable electric light, despite universal expert opinion to the contrary, he wasn't being unrealistic. He was refusing to make prevailing limited consciousness his starting point. Your prosperity expands to the degree you refuse to be defined by current conditions. The Bible teaches that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. This isn't religious hyperbole, but precise description of infinite supply available to consciousness, aligned with possibility rather than limitation. When Henry Ford conceived mass automobile production while horses still dominated transportation, he wasn't reacting to existing marketplace, but reshaping it through consciousness that transcended conventional boundaries. Your financial breakthroughs begin with thought breakthroughs. The moment you decisively break agreement with limiting beliefs is the moment your prosperity starts expanding beyond previous constraints. When Walt Disney dared to imagine themed entertainment on unprecedented scale, despite financial advisors calling it suicide, he wasn't displaying irrational optimism, but consciousness that refused arbitrary limitation. The impossible becomes achievable when consciousness expands beyond established boundaries. The masses believe financial security comes from accumulating enough. The wealthy understand lasting prosperity comes from constantly increasing their capacity to create value, solve problems, and serve needs. Your financial ceiling isn't determined by market conditions, but by your creativity, adaptability, and willingness to grow beyond comfort. As Solomon wrote, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance." This diligence isn't mere effort, but consistent expansion of consciousness expressed as expanded service. When Jesus said, "It is finished" from the cross, he demonstrated the consciousness that views desired outcomes as complete before physical evidence appears. This isn't denial of process, but recognition that manifestation begins with mental completion. Thomas Edison didn't approach the light bulb as experiment that might fail. He approached it as accomplished reality his work would simply reveal. Your prosperity manifests to the degree you can mentally complete it before taking first action steps. There exists a universal law more powerful than any economic theory, market fluctuation, or financial strategy. It's the law that declares thought precedes manifestation, that what you consistently believe and expect forms the template your reality matches. The greatest fortunes in history weren't accumulated by those with superior intellect, connection, or timing, but by those who mastered this fundamental law of consciousness cause. Think rich, speak rich, live rich. Not as techniques to manipulate reality, but as expressions of your true nature as creative being made in divine image. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. When you think from wealth rather than for wealth, speak from abundance rather than for abundance, live from prosperity rather than for prosperity, you activate the creative principle that has been yours from the beginning. Your prosperity isn't something you need to chase, achieve, or compete for. It's your divine inheritance activated through consciousness aligned with its reality. Think thoughts of abundance until they become your default. Speak words of prosperity until they flow naturally from genuine conviction. Live actions of generosity and gratitude until they become your spontaneous response to every circumstance. This isn't strategy. It's becoming who you truly are. The greatest secret of wealth creation isn't found in investment vehicles, business models, or market timing. It's found in the consciousness that perceives opportunity where others see obstacles, possibility where others see limitation, abundance where others see scarcity. This consciousness isn't gained through study alone, but through practice, moment by moment choice to think, speak, and live from prosperity, regardless of appearance. As Jesus taught, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, not distant future, but present reality for those with eyes to see. Your financial destiny awaits not external permission, but internal decision. The universe stands ready to match your consciousness with corresponding experience the moment you choose wealth over poverty, abundance over scarcity, prosperity over lack. The choice isn't made once, but continuous. Each thought, each word, each action, either affirming your right to divine supply or denying it. Choose now. Choose consistently. Choose prosperity not as future goal, but present reality. Think rich, not with superficial affirmations, but with deep conviction that transcends current circumstances. Speak rich, not with empty boasts, but with words that align with the abundance you know is your birthright. Live rich, not through ostentatious display, but through generous circulation of all good that flows through your life. This is your heritage as spiritual being experiencing human reality. Claim it, embody it, express it. The universe awaits your decisive